Growing up in Jamaica, this was the only cheese I knew. We had it with bun, bulla, bread, and my aunt made a killer mac and cheese with it. I knew other cheeses existed, but in my mind, those were the fancy stuff that didn't taste as good. So, imagine me hearing about cheesecake for the first time. Everyone is saying how amazing it is, and I'm thinking, of course, it must be made with the best cheese I know. You can guess my surprise when I found out the truth. I've always liked cheesecake, but ever since I was little, I've always wondered what would a tasty cheesecake taste like. This cheese is rich, soft, and mildly salty. It's smooth and dense, but still more sliceable than aged cheddar. Jamaican processed cheddar is its own thing entirely. It has a bold, sharp, almost concentrated cheddar flavor. Many Jamaicans find other cheeses bland because we grew up on this. This was our baseline for flavor. These are usually packaged in tins, but these wrap slices are also available. You can still see the indentation from a tin on the bottom of this one. For this recipe, I'm using an 8-ounce package of cheese. I'm just going to dice this up now to make the later steps much easier. The biggest problem with using this cheese is that it's extremely rich. Unlike cream cheese, which is a bit more balanced, this cheddar packs a real punch, and that actually doesn't make it great for cheesecake. Speaking of cream cheese, we need 8 ounces of that as well. Even though other cheeses like mascarpone, ricotta, and even goat cheese are used, the base for a classic cheesecake is cream cheese. It's creamy, smooth, and has a tangy kick that grounds the flavor and cuts through the richness. But cream cheese alone won't tame this cheddar. That's where the next ingredient comes in. Half a cup of sour cream. Essentially fermented cream. During fermentation, lactic acid bacteria lowers the pH, giving it that sour taste. Sour cream not only balances the richness, it also lightens the texture, so the cheesecake isn't overly dense. Next up, half a cup of sugar, just enough to bring in some sweetness. Then, 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. This one's optional, but it does help to stabilize the cheesecake. 1 teaspoon of vanilla, half a teaspoon of freshly grated nutmeg. This really pushed that Jamaican dessert vibe. Here I have 1 lemon. I didn't intentionally get it green. These were just the only ones available. But honestly, I think it works even better. Green lemons are less sweet, more acidic, and sharper in flavor. I'm grating in about half a tablespoon of zest. Compared to a ripe lemon, this zest is grassy and intense, which really helps ground the cheesecake. I'm also squeezing in all of that juice. Even though this is green, it's still surprisingly juicy. If you don't have a green lemon, a ripe one, or even lime will do just fine. The idea is just to add acidity to cut the richness of the cheese, so a citrus is perfect for that. And now for a secret ingredient, mustard powder. This adds just a touch of tang and depth, but it's really meant to stay in the background. You shouldn't be able to tell that it's there, it just helps to lighten the overall flavor. I'm only adding a teaspoon. This mix is already smelling so good. The only appliance I'm using for this recipe is an immersion blender. It works great for getting a smooth batter, but a stand mixer or even a solid blender would do the trick. To loosen things up and help it blend, I'm adding a few splashes of milk, about half a cup in total. Water would also work here, and honestly, it might even be better. Unlike milk, it doesn't add extra richness, and that's the theme of this cheesecake. Cut the richness at every turn. A little splash on my finger, so this is the perfect time for a taste test. That's really good, but it's still pretty rich, and I haven't even added the eggs as yet. What that means is that I need more acid, so I'm adding the juice of 1 lime. Tasty cheese is a real beast. It works really well with sweet foods like bulla and bun, but making it work in a dessert like cheesecake takes real finesse. Now it's time for the eggs. I need 2 of them. I'm adding them one at a time. Eggs give cheesecake its structure, especially once it's baked and set. I'll just blend until they're properly mixed in. You don't want to overmix though. Overmixing introduces too much air and it puffs up while it's baking, then collapses when cool, leaving cracks across the top. Perfect. That filling is done. It picked up a little extra air, but that's fine. That is exactly what we want. The texture is smooth, thick and pourable, but still not runny. I'm going to wrap this and let it chill in the fridge. Resting helps the flavors to come together even better. While that's chilling, let's talk about pans. This is a springform pan, and it's what's typically used for cheesecake. It comes in 2 pieces that makes removing without damaging the cake much easier. A springform pan is great, but today we are keeping it a bit simpler. This is a regular 8-inch baking pan with slanted side. Let's get that greased up. It's non-stick, but I like the extra insurance. I've learned this trick back in high school home economics class, and it's probably the first time I've used it since. This is just a piece of grease paper, cut to about twice the height of the pan. I folded over about 1.5 inches on one of the long sides and made some diagonal cuts about 1 inch apart. That lets me wrap it neatly around the inside of the pan so it sits flush. The grease helps it to stay in place. To finish this setup, I also cut out a circular piece of grease paper, the size of the bottom of the pan. Grease that up a bit more and in goes the final piece. That looks really good. So now let's talk about the crust. Cheesecake crust can be made from almost anything. Cookies, crackers, biscuits. But if the filling is made from Tastee cheese, then the crust has to be Easter bun. This is a standard Easter bun. Even though they are way more popular around Easter, you can find them year-round in supermarkets. This is loaded with sweet warm spices, fruits and raisins. This one is a bit on the drier side. Typically an Easter bun is moist and chewy, but this has probably been on the shelf for a good while. I'm making about 1/2 inch slices, but we could make this much thicker. Usually a cheesecake crust involves making a crumble, mixing the butter, sometimes sugar and blind baking, but this will be a lot more straightforward. One slice, place each piece against the side of the pan. Bend about 1.5 inches near the bottom of each slice at a 90-degree angle, basically making an L all around the pan. We can now fill out the center. For any gaps in our crust, just cut a piece of bun and fill it. Even though this bun is fairly dry, it's still flexible enough to mold. Just make sure everything fits snugly so the filling doesn't leak out. And that's it. Usually the crust is baked first, and I actually tried that in a test run. The results were not good. The bun crust was leathery and just didn't have a great texture. Now I'm going to grab the cheese mixture from the fridge and pour it into the baking tin. The Easter bun being a bit dry and stale, I think is actually working in our favor. It can absorb a bit more liquid than usual from the filling, so this should actually work out really well. Cheesecakes benefit from being baked gentler, so I need to set up a water bath. A baking tray with boiling water should do the trick. The water is going to produce extra steam, helping to bake the cheesecake more evenly while preventing cracks. That low, steady heat should also give us creamy, silky smooth texture. We'll bake this in a preheated oven at 325 degrees Fahrenheit. At this thickness, it should take around 2 hours. Thinner cheesecake will need less time. A good sign that it's done is that the sides are set firm and the center has a little jiggle. For the best results and to prevent temperature shocks that might cause cracking, make sure you cool it gradually. I left this in the oven on off with the doors open to cool off slowly. We lost that color when we blended the filling, but after baking it seems to be back. That bun is dehydrated, so I'm just spritzing it with a bit of simple syrup. That's going to act as a glaze and return a nice sheen to the bun. A pastry brush would make this much easier, but the bristles on mine kept falling out. I guess I need new ones. That looks beautiful. I love the color, and the aroma of the cheese and spice bun is amazing. It's not completely cooled yet, so I let it sit on the counter a bit longer before chilling in the fridge for a few hours. So I ended up letting this chill overnight. The first thing you might notice is that the color got back really light, almost like a typical cheesecake. Alright, let's get this out of the pan. Even though this has chilled and set, it's still very delicate, so make sure you handle it with care. That bun crust is now very moist, unlike what we started with. If your bun has more moisture, you could bake the crust for a few minutes to dry it out a bit. For super clean slices, use a clean warm wet knife for each cut. That is beautiful. Just by looking at it, you can tell that it has a silky smooth texture. Let's give this a taste and see how we did. That is it. That lemony tang comes through nicely to balance out the richness. That tasty cheese flavor is still front and center. And even with all the acids, it's still rich and decadent. That spice bun just ties everything together. This is exactly how I imagine cheesecake. The only tweak I might make next time is to make the filling a bit thinner and the bun crust a little thicker for better balance. But honestly, this is incredible. I am Nick. This has been delicious. Shout out to our patrons who keep us cooking. Drop a like or comment. I always love hearing from you. Thanks for watching. Bless up, and I'll catch you in the next one.